Thanos was the main villain of the Infinity Saga, and he became one of the best villains in the superhero genre. The same was supposed to happen with Kang, who was announced as the big villain of the Multiverse Saga, but the character was quite disappointing. He didn't connect with the audience, no one took him seriously, and according to The Hollywood Reporter, Marvel is going to remove him as the main villain of the saga. Thanos worked, and Kang didn't. And today on Mr. Headcannon, I'm gonna tell you the 5 reasons why that happened. We first saw Thanos in the post-credit scene of Avengers 1. It was unexpected, because at that time, there weren't even rumors that the villain could appear in live action, so everyone was surprised. He didn't say one word, but this shot was enough to spark everyone's curiosity, even in those who didn't know the character, which was most of the people who went to the cinema.
I don't even know who you are.
This Chitauri said that challenging the Avengers was the same as challenging death, a nice reference to the comics because Thanos is in love with death. But the most important thing was Thanos' smile, which convinced us that this guy was going to be the biggest threat the Avengers could ever face. He was someone who wasn't afraid of them and was going to be much more dangerous than Loki. This was a perfect introduction. Kang, on the other hand, debuted in Loki Season 1's finale. His appearance was not as unexpected as Thanos because all the fans expected Marvel to reveal that Kang was behind the TVA. Marvel delivered, but not in the best way. This episode works as an anti-climax because it's a long explanation of how the multiverse works and why the TVA exists. We can forgive them for that because all this information was necessary for both the Loki show and the rest of the multiversal saga. The problem is that this version of Kang is not the definitive Kang.
I don't understand.
This is He Who Remains, a variant of Kang who is not a threat to Loki or Sylvie. What he does is keep the 616 universe safe. Maybe his methods wouldn't be approved by the Avengers, but he's much closer to being a hero than a villain. And I know what you're gonna say. He's much more powerful than Loki because he can manipulate time at will and knows everything that's going to happen, but he has no interest in attacking Loki or the Avengers, so he isn't an actual threat. He's not even intimidating because he spends most of the time making jokes and is quite the extrovert. This is the complete opposite of what happened with Thanos in the post-credit scene of Avengers 1. Thanos seemed like a villain to be feared, but Kang doesn't want to hurt the Avengers. We have no reason to be afraid of him.
There's a big difference.
Thanos barely has any lines of dialogue before Infinity War. He says nothing in the post-credit scene of Avengers 1, throws some one-liners at Ronan and Guardians, but not much else. Says one line in the post-credit scene of Age of Ultron, but in the first scene of Infinity War, we already see him in action. He defeats Thor off-screen, kills Loki, kills Heimdall, and defeats Hulk in hand-to-hand combat without help, without tricks, and without using the stones.
You're good.
From this scene on, we already buy Thanos as a villain. He killed the character that no one had been able to kill, and defeated 2 of the most powerful Avengers without effort. We know this guy can defeat all the Avengers, and if he gets all the stones, he'll be unstoppable. Not because he tells us he'll be unstoppable, but because we see him being unstoppable. This happens again and again throughout the movie. We constantly see Thanos doing stuff, not just saying he's going to do stuff. Kang is the exact opposite. He talks a lot, but doesn't do much. In Loki's Season 1 finale, all he does is talking. In the second season, he also talks a lot. And in Quantumania, when we meet a truly evil Kang, he also talks and talks and talks and talks.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
He tells us he was betrayed. He tells us he's very powerful. He tells us he destroyed several timelines. He tells us he defeated the Avengers. He tells and tells and tells, but we don't see him doing any of this stuff. And no, I'm not saying it's forbidden for villains to talk about their plans, their past, or how big their stick is. Thanos also talked about his past on Titan and explained several times what he was going to do when he had all the stones, but he made up for it with actions. He defeated the Avengers, obtained the stones, and snapped his fingers. Kang, as of now, is all talk because he says he defeated Thor and multiple Avengers teams, but he can't even face MODOK and Ant-Man.
Pathetic.
Thanos is a Titan. He has superhuman strength, enhanced agility, enhanced reflexes, and invulnerability. In the MCU, they didn't even adapt his abilities to fly or resist psychic attacks, but he's still incredibly powerful and can face any of the Avengers with his bare hands, even without the stones. This is crucial because he can overpower any of the heroes in combat, even if they were to take the gauntlet away from him. We see this in the 3rd act of Endgame. Thanos can fight Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America alone using only his sword.
Incredible.
Kang has no powers. He's a human from the future with knowledge of what happens in different universes and access to futuristic technology. But if you take away his armor, he's defenseless. He has no superhuman abilities that allow him to face the Avengers. So if his shields go down, exactly what happened in Quantumania, he's defenseless against any attack. Sure, he can beat up Ant-Man, who has no physical abilities and isn't as good in hand-to-hand combat as Daredevil or Spider-Man, but Wasp can defeat him by hitting him with a couple of stingers. Something like this would never have happened with a villain like Thanos.
Puny God.
There's a reason why most of the great Avengers villains have superpowers. Ultron, Korvac, Doctor Doom, Annihilus. All of them are physical threats to the heroes, and we fear for the lives of Iron Man or Captain America, because any of these villains can kill them in a hand-to-hand fight. And I know what you're commenting right now, that this could have been fixed with Kang, because in the comics he is a good villain. But the difference is that in the comics he uses future technology that he hasn't used yet in the MCU. The best we've seen of Kang was him shooting a couple of stingers in Quantumania. Stingers that didn't help him fight some ants. Ants. Freaking ants!
Unacceptable.
Thanos' motivations in Infinity War are very clear. He wants to obtain the Infinity Stones to eliminate half the population of the entire universe and thus balance things, because there aren't enough resources for everyone. Thanos is a fanatic and a believer in his ideas, who sells himself as an altruistic and fair person who wants the best for everyone. He's willing to sacrifice his loved ones to achieve his goals, but doesn't want to kill anyone who doesn't deserve it and doesn't seek eternal glory. After beating the Avengers in Infinity War, he retires to spend the rest of his days on a farm without bothering anyone.
Humility. I like it.
Of course, this plan has some holes. If Thanos could do anything with the stones, why didn't he increase the amount of natural resources? Why didn't he distribute them better? Why didn't he make us need fewer resources to survive? Why didn't he re-educate the entire universe's population? Why didn't he create new planets?
That is an excellent question.
With the gauntlet, he could literally rewrite reality. But if we overlook all those questions, his motivations are interesting.
He reminds us of Magneto or Doctor Doom, characters who are villains because of their methods and because they are morally wrong. But if you listen to them for a while, they might convince you they have a point, and they can be more interesting than the heroes. Now, I'd like you to write this down in the comment section. What are Kang's motivations? What does he want to do? From what we've seen of him in the MCU, he wants to conquer, or take revenge on his variants for banishing him, or rewrite the entire multiverse, or be the king of the multiverse. If we check the comics, he might want to reunite with his girlfriend, but none of that has been explained yet. We've seen the character in 3 different projects, and we don't even know what he wants to do. I don't need him to have mundane motivations or to relate to him, because the Joker is crazy and he is one of the best villains ever created. But we need to know something. How are we supposed to buy him as a villain if we don't even know what he wants to do?
Not interested.
According to Jeff Loveness, the screenwriter of Quantumania, they were going to include flashbacks of Kang's past so we could learn his origin story and motivations, but they decided to save that for Kang Dynasty. I'm sure that on paper, it didn't seem like a bad idea, because they wanted Avengers 5 to be led by Kang and needed to save something for that movie. But now, it feels like we don't know anything about Kang, even though he's had a lot of screen time in this saga. And we have the 5th reason, the most important one. One was defeated and the other was not. Thanos doesn't lose a single fight until Endgame. Many focus on the first scene of Infinity War, which we've already discussed, but throughout the rest of the movie, we see Thanos mopping the floor with all the Avengers. He defeats Spider-Man, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, the Guardians, kills Gamora, Beats Captain America, Vision, and even stops Wanda.
Wow.
I know, Thor was just about to beat Thanos in this scene, and if he had aimed for the head, he would have killed the Mad Titan, but Thanos still managed to snap his fingers. Despite being mortally wounded by Stormbreaker and having to teleport because he's bleeding out, Thanos wins. In the final scene of Infinity War, we see him smiling because he emerged victorious. He didn't lose throughout the entire movie.
I won!
This changes in Endgame because Thor kills him in the first act, and the young Thanos has trouble facing all the Avengers together. If it weren't for the missiles from his ship, he would have been crushed by Scarlet Witch. But in Infinity War, he doesn't lose. Quite the opposite of Kang. All the Kang variants who had more than 3 lines of dialogue have already been defeated. He who remains is killed by Sylvie. He returns in the 2nd season and is defeated by Loki. Kang is defeated by Ant-Man, and he had already been defeated by his variants off-screen. And Victor Timely dies hundreds of times trying to fix the time loom. The only ones who are undefeated are the members of the Council of Kangs.
But if they last as long as their variants, I don't think there'll be a problem for the most powerful Avengers, like Thor, Hulk, Wanda, if the witch is still alive, or Gaia, who now has all the powers.
This never happened.
I understand that Kang is a different villain from Thanos and represents a threat because he has many variants with different abilities and knowledge of the future. But picture this. Would you have bought Thanos as a villain if Marvel had killed him in the post-credits scene of Avengers 1? What if Ronan had killed him in Guardians of the Galaxy? What if he had lost a fight in the post-credits scene of Age of Ultron? What if he had been defeated again in the first scene of Infinity War? You don't even have to use much imagination. It's what they're doing in What If. They've already killed Thanos like 15 times in that show. Do you think the Mad Titan is still a fearsome villain after that?
No.
The only way to fix Kang would be to have him kill one of the Avengers in the first scene of Kang Dynasty, or seeing him destroy an entire universe at the beginning of that movie. But it might be too late to do that because Marvel has taken a serious blow since Endgame. I explain why in this video over here.
We know him to watch it.